Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Haji here today and tonight, few hours before election night, which is tomorrow, November 3rd. Big night. And we're lucky to be joined again. We have Hodan Hassan, who is joining us now. Welcome, Hodan. Did a little bit of rundown of what we need to do, but if you are out there and listening right now to the show, welcome to the Haji Show. Let me introduce you who we have here today on our show. We have number one, we have Hassan Yusuf, who is running for city council in the city of St. Cloud. We have Abdurazak Bihi, candidates, city council, Ward 6, big influential community, Minneapolis community leader. We have Lila, who is part of our Minnesota leadership, especially in Woodbury area, a mother raising her kids and also a big activist on the front fighting many fights in Minnesota and also in and around Minneapolis. Kevin Chavez, former leader of Twin City Revolution, still part of that organization. Again, another big community leader. And finally, the big lady, our leader at the state, Representative Hodan Hassan. I know she doesn't like to hear that. She doesn't like. She's very humble in her ways, but I'm gonna say it. I'm just call it the way it is. She is joining us today. Thank you very much for joining me, guys. Tomorrow is election day. I want to start with you, Hodan. Give you the opening. Tomorrow is election day. I want to ask you how important is this election, and then we will go Bihi, Hassan, Lila, and Kevin.
Hi everyone. Thank you, Haji. Can you guys hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Haji, for inviting us to this conversation. Tomorrow is election day. Yes. I cannot put enough emphasis on how important this election is, and if anyone is in doubt that our democracy is not at stake, I think they're either blind or they're pretending not to see, because we have seen what has been happening in our country in the last 4 years, and the events that have happened in the last even few days. There was a Biden bus that people, that was being chased on the freeway by Trump supporters. That's stuff that happens in third world countries that are run by tyrants and communist leaders. That doesn't happen in America, but then that happened. So Trump's effort to discourage and intimidate his opposition leader should tell you something about what's happening in our country. We need to take back our country. We are tired of fear-mongering politics. We're tired of divisive politics. We're tired of this narrative and rhetoric of us versus them. We're one America. We're the United States of America. We're not the United States of Trumpland. And one thing that should scare everyone is that these people are waving Trump flag. They're not waving the American flag. They're waving Trump flag. Mm-hmm. So then that means that there is something even bigger than the country itself. The man is bigger than the country itself. The man is, bigger than the Constitution. He's bigger than rule of law. He's bigger than everything. That is a sign of dictatorship. That's a sign that's scary, that we should all be protesting against. Our lives are at stake. Our livelihoods at stake. Everything that we believe in is at stake. So I plead with you. I beg you, please go out and vote. Let's vote Trump out. Where's our host?
Go ahead, Bihi.
First of all, I want to say hello to everyone. Actually, it's very important. There's a lot of, as our representative Hassan said, that's exactly what's at stake. And not only that, what I really love about this is that we, as a community, together, unite, respond by really going out there and getting people to vote early. In the East African community, I work with Representative Hassan and Noor, and also Congresswoman Ilhan and Kerry Diziak and many other people. We are out there with vans and transportation. People are excited. It's frustrating for them because we don't have enough vans to take everybody at the same time. They're ready, so it's very frustrating for everyone. We're always getting calls from Hassan and Noor telling us to go there and pick that up. Everybody's excited. There is not enough out there, but we managed to do our best. Um, it's very interesting times. It's very sometimes horrifying that the whole country is divided. Our communities are divided, and this president leads on fear. I mean, you just watch all these advertisements that really tell people, I mean, to go at each other. That's really wrong, and it shouldn't be coming from any president, let alone the United States president. That's supposed to be not only our leader that brings us together and unite us and moves us forward, but the the leader of the free world. So all blues elected. It's the excitement, the unity. Time we have a challenge that brings us closer together. Whether it's a fire in our community that some people died in public housing, or whether it's this trauma nationwide, we are coming together, and we will not allow anyone to divide us, let alone Trump. I'm asking people, like our representative has been saying all the time and everywhere, we need to get everyone who did not vote early to go out there. We still have all those vans, we still have all those volunteers. I just want to also mention Hassanan Muhammad and his team, young people in the community. I'm so excited to see them everywhere in Carmel Mall, in a Seward, all over Ward 6, all over at Mall 24, giving, telling people this is so beautiful. It's really educating our young people also to be involved. I want to say finally, I have a graduated from South High with honors, and right now it's the first year of UFM. And the first time she voted in a presidential election, she did vote. And not only that, she's working with Hassanin and his team, and she's knocking doors. She loved it. She's encouraging other young people. We are going to win because love wins over hate.
Thank,
Thank you.
thank you. Are in St. Cloud. How important it is for you running for city council and also getting the vote out in St. Cloud area in Minnesota?
Thank you so much, Haji. I really appreciate you inviting me to this program. Thank you, everyone who is there. I really appreciate your presence. Just like my previous colleagues have emphasized, especially the issue of our democracy becoming alien. People are losing hope with democracy because the dictatorship is almost taking over the country. And the hope that we are used to here. So it is important that people come out and exercise their democratic right to vote and have a say in the democracy and government that they want. As you can see from different aspects that's going on in our country, that has been brought by the current, where Representative Hogan said that there is real connection between the current administration and dictatorship around the world. And there is fear that our country will become a dictatorship if we do not participate in the democratic process, especially the young people. And in St. Cloud, for example, we are working so hard for people to come out. I've seen people who just became citizens today, going to the polls, want to vote. So there is real emphasis and desire to vote. But there will be voter suppression that we need to be aware of. And we need to ensure that we counter that by making people understand their right, and by having people who can explain their right to them at the polling station and explain the process so that they can vote and make sure that their votes count. We have the right to vote, but many people are fearful because of the fear that has been going on for the last 4 years. And every time Trump comes to this state, Minnesota, for example, he always community, which are reproductive, and they have continued to contribute to economic prosperity of our state and of our nation. So we have an obligation to make sure that we participate in this process. And because of that, that's why I'm running for city council, to make sure that our city represents our population, so that we are at the table when a decision is being made that affects us. So thank you so much. But this election is the most important election in our lifetime, and we need to make sure that everyone comes out to vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hassan, who is running. By the way, get people out there. If you are in St. Cloud and you're listening to this program, I know some of you are there right now. Get people out and work with Hassan. Get him elected city council. This is representing St. Cloud. Lila Tan. I'm not gonna say your last name. But go ahead. I'll try, but go ahead.
Well, first of all, thank you for
Layla, right? Not Lila.
Laila.
Layla. It says Lila on the Facebook, so I just want to make sure that see. I know you're gonna get me on this all the time. Somebody's gonna have to correct me. But Layla, go ahead. Layla is in Woodbury. Like I said, she is a mother, a woman, a Muslim, a person, part of a diverse, growing immigrant community calling Minnesota home, and she's out there also doing in the fight, just like Hassan Yusuf is in St. Cloud, here in Minneapolis, Bilhi, and also Representative Hadan. Go ahead, my sister. Is your turn to say something?
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us and having this type of discussion tonight. I think it's really important. Just like Representative Hassan just said, I mean, look at this country. Since when do we see people in trucks surrounding presidential campaign bus and basically ambushing them, right?
This is. I'm sorry to interrupt, but this is what we see, and most of us ran away from in many parts of the world. This is exactly the kind of elections that we see happening in other parts of the world. So it's kind of really shocking, But go ahead, Lil.
Exactly. And that's exactly the point, right? We can recognize it because a lot of us who come from immigrant communities have seen tyrants and dictators, right? We recognize it. We can see it happening. And so, as we move closer to the elections, obviously we're seeing more and more of it. Out in Woodbury, we had Tiffany Trump here just a few days ago. Her community was just wild. I mean, the divisive, language and, we had adults who were wearing their weapons that they love so much, arguing with teenagers who showed up because they're so passionate about, they're passionate about these topics. They're not protesters. They're just high school students who decided to show up because they didn't know what to do, but they knew they wanted to do something. So we're starting not to recognize our country anymore. And this election is definitely going to be one of the most important elections in our lifetime. But it requires all of us to fight. It requires all of us to come out to the table. And a lot of times, if you're not connected to politics and you're not connected to all of these things, you have this belief that your life is fine, right? If you vote, you're participating, it's great. But if you don't vote, we live here, everything's fine. If someone once said to me, if you don't like it here, then you guys can go to a different country. But that's not how it works, right? We have the right to participate in the system. We have the right to use our voice, and we have the right to say that we want to live in communities where we're welcome, and that our president isn't encouraging people to hurt others, whether it's psychologically or physical, because that's happening as well. So again, this election, just like everyone else was saying, it's extremely important, and it's extremely important for us not just to vote, but to also participate in this process from beginning to end. If they don't start seeing our faces more often, and we don't start representing ourselves more often, then our issues will never be on the table. We will never, there will never, in the Egyptian community, a lot of people are upset that Biden ended up being the nominee, but they also didn't participate from the beginning. And so now we're at a point where they don't want to vote for Biden and they don't want to vote for Trump, but they're not understanding the connection, right? How do you hold somebody like Vice President Biden accountable if he's not even seeing us, if we're not even on the table? So those are just some of the things, I guess.
And that is will be one of my questions, which will come later on. And that's and it's good that you raised that point. It's a very good point that you've raised. So individually now, before I come to that, individually, I know all of you are leaders in your own way, and you're leading. I know Bihi did mention a little bit of what he's doing, but before I get to that, Kevin, it's your turn. I know you've waited for long.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Haji. This is a great panel. Nice to see everyone here. I've run into y'all from time to time. So again, my name is Kevin Chavis. I'm organizer, volunteer with Our Revolution, both Twin Cities and Minnesota. And so we had a 4-point plan going into 2020, and the first point of that plan was defeating Trump. We know he is an existential threat to our democracy, to our entire society, and so defeating him is our number one strategy going into this election. We know that he's made a lot of promises. He tells people he's going to bring back jobs and he's going to improve people's lives. Well, has that actually happened? And it hasn't. Jobs are still being shipped overseas. Factories still are closing, and we're in a pandemic that he has not addressed at all. And so there are several hundred counties that voted for Barack Obama twice and then voted for Trump. They were looking for change. They thought maybe he was going to one that was going to change things for them, and he didn't. And so we're going back to those voters and we're letting them know, like, hey, have things actually improved in your lives? Is your life better right now than it was before you elected Trump? And it's worse. And so people, as long as they're actually looking at the facts, they're saying, oh, this is not a good situation for any of us right now. Not anyone, even the people we're blaming on ourselves, our families, we're not moving ahead. So maybe he's not the right person to go with again. And I also want to point out something positive, because I know everyone's brought some really great points about why we should be concerned with Trump. But we also have to remember there are local elections that are happening at the same time as the presidential race. Just less than 50 years ago, Edina still had an ordinance on their books that it was a sundown city. You couldn't be in the city of Edina if you were black and the sun was down, at night. That was in their books. And now we're looking to elect our chair and vice chair, Janet Katui and Ugasha Dakane, to the Edina City Council. Janet has single-handedly made affordable housing a big issue in Edina, where no one even thought that was a thing that you could talk about in Edina and actually be real policies. That's what we're doing. We're pushing the agenda for progressive values in local elections on up. And that's how we're going to actually take back our country, not just defeating Trump, but also electing great folks at the local level on up. So that's why I think tomorrow is a really important, critical election in so many ways.
It's good to mention local elections. That's very important. A lot of candidates, like in St. Cloud and many other places, are on the running. Edina, like you've mentioned, I spoke to Janet Kitui. She's great up front fighting for affordable housing. I spoke to her about that as well. So yes, this is important election across, not only presidential, but other levels of representation, which is very important. And that is a very good point that you've raised. Now, let's come to us individually. I know, like I've mentioned, individually, all of you are leaders in your own capacity. You're doing your part in, I know Bihi did mention a little bit of what he's doing and getting the vote out in Minneapolis. If you could also, and I know you did mention Hodan playing a role in that. Hassan, how are you doing that? How are you getting people out to vote? And also these questions will go to Leila, because I know Bihi and Hodan did mention that. So if Hassan and then Leila and then maybe Hodan can add a little bit more, we can go from there.
Thank you so much. That's very important. Actually, we have out from right now, and we have around 40 volunteers who are there. And we are planning to go to apartment by apartment to bring the people out so that they can come out and vote. And we have prepared every person who was there had his own vehicle. And so we hope that we are able to bring everyone out. So we are trying to tag in one particular time that we know that everyone in that particular place has voted. Also during the early voting, we took there many people. Even today, the lines were very long and they had to close before the lines were done. But on election day, inshallah, we hope and we know that those people who are there by 8 p.m. should continue to vote. And we are telling people that if they are already in the line and they are told to go, they should not go until they vote. So we have elaborate plan to bring people out. And it's my hope that our plan will become successful and we will continue to do that. Thank you.
Layla.
Awesome. So, I mean, I've been involved in a few different things this election season. I think right now we're really focusing on GOTV, right? How can we have those individual conversations, or how can we talk to as many people as possible and get them out to the polls as soon as possible? So we've held rallies. We actually had a rally just yesterday where we brought out our state representatives and city council candidates, school board candidates, county commissioner candidates, and brought people from the community out so that we can have just an uplifting event and motivate more people to talk to others to get them to the polls. And we gave out quite a bit of Biden, Harris merchandise. We've also held forums. I've held a number of forums around the East Metro, some in St. Paul, Woodbury, all over, and we shared those online. And we've gotten quite a bit of views and feedback from people indicating that those forums really help them make a decision on who to support, not only who to vote for, but who to volunteer for as well. We've held community conversations. Voter registration drives. There was one day where we had about 10 voter registration tables set up around the East Metro area where we registered people to vote or just answered questions for them. A lot of people just had questions on whether or not they were registered, and then questions about their polling location. So we were able to do that. We've also, provided volunteers or sent out volunteers to help phone bank for candidates. That's another thing. And then lit drops for candidates. And then last but not least, we've been doing candidate support. So if we have a candidate who reaches out to us, and I do this individually on my own, but if a candidate reaches out to me or I reach out to a candidate and they need assistance, I'll go out and I'll try to figure out resources. I'll connect them to resources or people in order to help them reach more voters at any given time. So those are a few things. We've been using social media very effectively, especially right now with COVID. Just video information that we've been really sending out to people that has been making quite a bit of difference. So
good. And hold on, and then Bihi, you can add a little bit more of that.
Well, we have been doing, so the good thing about Minnesota is that you have early voting 45 days before election. So we have been trying to take advantage of that and get as many people as in before the weather gets cold. We know that, the East African elders are very active politically and they love to vote. So making sure that we're providing transportation for the ones that want to go there physically. And you'd be surprised how many people want to go there physically and don't want to vote by mail. And also providing assistance to people who cannot, for whatever reason, go to the polling location, early voting centers, helping them fill out that application and mail it for them or drop it off at the early voting centers. So we have been providing, we've been calling, we've been providing transportation, we've been providing support. Bihi earlier said that I call him every single day and I'm like, somebody needs to be picked up and so, and we don't have enough drivers actually. So if you're watching this and you live in Minneapolis, in South Minneapolis, and you have a car and you want to help out, please get in touch with us. We would love to use your car and your time tomorrow so we can get as many people to the polling locations as possible. But I'll let Bihi add on the rest.
Go ahead, Behi.
Thank you, Representative Hassan. And yeah, we've been working with all the different groups and different districts, and coordinating whatever resources we have from everybody in terms of transportation. And COVID-19, when you have a 15 passenger, a couple of them, you can't feel it. So you have to take a certain, sometimes four, five. You know, thanks, we've been providing. Though everybody was really, almost everybody had a mask. We've been providing masks. We've been trying to help not only the elders to vote, but also to be healthy and not catch anything. And a lot of them also needed help filling out um, the ballot. Um, so there are people who is Somali among or at the polling station, voting early station. So that was very helpful too, because the crowd was growing big. Um, but today, what we did is we actually did a live TV, Somali TV, with Mr. Noor and others. It happened just like that. See the riverside, telling people that tomorrow is the most important day. There are some people who think that the people were voting early, so that's the end of it. So our message today and tonight, and thank you for the platform, Mr. Yusuf, is to tell people that tomorrow is the day if you haven't voted yet. So we are going to be there to 7 in the morning, 8 o'clock, going around the community, still providing transportation. And as Representative Hodan said, if you want to volunteer, if you want to help out with the transportation, with any other things, please contact us, contact our representative. Then we will be able to use your resources, your car, to see if a physically challenged person or anyone or an elder wants to go out. The good thing is the weather is beautiful. Tomorrow is going to be beautiful. And I think even nature, God, everyone is against Trump because the weather is so beautiful. That means that means there
That's
is no
a
excuse.
yes. That's
And
a
we have those vans and transportation. Representative Hassan mentioned, and we'll increase that as much as we can for tomorrow. So tomorrow, our job is to be out there, guide people, support them. Every now and then, we hear rumors. We hear, especially certain neighborhoods, like Representative Hassan's district, Noor's district, where I live. Even Congress Omar's district, which there were a lot of community members also live, that something happened. Something's going to happen. Crazy white guy with a big gun will say, "Will show up in the riverside, kill everyone, do this," and sometimes that is really goes through a lot. We also have people ready for that, as we did before. That will be out there and say that doesn't exist. You are protected. We'll be there with you. So we are ready even for those things I'm saying did not happen yet, but we are even ready for that. In case it comes out, we have people that will disseminate the right information. So we are excited, and um, I love this community. Give me a challenge, we'll give
I
you
love
unity,
I
and I
love
will give you a vote.
I love that passion, and I love that passion that's coming out from Bihi about protecting and working to get this going and having things in places to make sure that the election outcome in Minnesota has 11 electoral votes. The Republican Party and Donald Trump won this, so it's very important for people of color to really come out in huge numbers in many areas across the states to cast their vote. So this is why it's important. I want all of us to be able to deny Trump, Minnesota, electoral vote, because that is what they want, and he wants to understand. Kevin, I'm gonna go to you. This question. I know I wanted to ask what will happen if Biden wins. Because of time, we're gonna push that back. Maybe after election, we're gonna continue having that conversation. But now I'm gonna ask you, and I'm gonna ask all of you to you, and if you can make it brief, I'll appreciate it. What happens if Donald Trump wins tomorrow? Not
Oh
steals,
man.
not steals. There's a
So
reason.
We don't
There's
really
a,
want to
Terrible
think about
question.
that.
I'm asking this question so we're prepared. I mean, honestly, like there's, I'm hoping for the best, right?
So-
The best outcome that will come. But if that happens, which is a nightmare scenario, right? What do we do now next? We have to be prepared, and we have to ask this question. I'm sorry, I had to ask that. I know it's painful. I know it's traumatizing. For me, I have a lot of anxiety. I cannot sleep. I don't have appetite. I want this to be done with. But please go ahead, Kevin. I'd love to hear from you guys as well.
So yeah, 4 years ago, I actually posed that same question to some top Dems, and they didn't even want to consider it either. But I do think it's an important question to ask. I personally do not think he's going to win, but let's say he does. I think we're going to have to organize in a massive way that most people are not personally prepared for. I don't think people are mentally prepared if he were to win again. I think that it would be devastating for the entire country, because we know for a fact that Biden will win the popular vote. That's guaranteed. We already know that the numbers are there. But the Electoral College or some other shenanigans, he might be able to pull it off potentially. I think it's really slim, but we're going to need to organize like never before. People are going to have to actually make sure that democracy is served and that we have a functioning government going forward, because if he has another 4 years, I think that it's going to tear this country apart even more than it already is. And he's not doing anything. He's not doing anything to deal with COVID. He's not dealing with the economic crisis that people are facing. And that's what we need to, as people that want a better community, those are the questions that we need to be asking of ourselves and of each other, so that we actually have a better society. Like, what is he doing for us? And we need to ask those questions over and over and gain more people and more organization to actually see a better country come about. That's the only way we're going to have a better future, is if we start asking the tough questions about where we want to take us as a society. If we don't do that, we just pretend like government's going to take care of itself, we'll never get anywhere. We need to keep pushing no matter what, including if Biden wins. So that's my quick answer. Not expecting this question.
Hassan, briefly, what are you prepared? Are people prepared for any eventuality? And what as a leader, if you get elected as well, what would be your role moving forward in making sure that the on and the fight continues? Hassan, can you hear me, Hassan?
Thank you so much. Actually, just like my friend said, many people have not thought about this question. And actually, they have thought about it, but they are not mentally prepared for it. And if that were to happen, I think our country will really go to the dogs. It will be very tough situation. And if we are currently isolated from most of the world because of the hate and the rhetoric that he has been doing it for a long time. So it will be really, really very tough. So people will need to organize themselves at grassroots, at least if the Senate flips, and that will be at least a push to deny him many of the powers that he has been using. But it will be a tough situation, and we'll just see how it goes. It will be really hard.
And this is when we need mental health experts. As they're elected in the House, they will still need them. They need to console us. They need to tell us how to deal with this. Hold on, what do we do? How do we deal with a scenario like this? I know you have a mental health.
I'll say that he's not gonna win. Let me just that's where I'm at. That's where my mental focus is right now. He's not going to win. But we just have to remember that we have been living in trauma for the past 4 years.
Oh yes.
So I can't imagine us living through another trauma for another 4 years, because it will be a very unfortunate thing. But there is always a silver lining for every terrible thing that happens. The year that Donald Trump got elected, Ilhan Omar was elected into the House. So there is great things that could happen. I mean, even if he's elected, I hope and pray to God that he does not get reelected. But if we flip the Senate, we could do great work in Minnesota, and we can continue and prepare ourselves. Of course, we have to abide by the rules, and we will, unlike President Trump, we're going to say that, of course, we will just abide by the rules and say that if he wins election, okay, fine, he's still a president for this country. But it would mean that we have to organize in a bigger way than we have been for the past 4 years. We have to find a way to unite this country. This country is divided right now. We have to unite. We have to, dismiss this rhetoric that it's us for system. It's not us for system. It's us against Trump. That's what it is. Us against Trump and his cult, whoever those are. And they're mostly people who are super wealthy and they're supporting him because he's giving them tax breaks, or they're super poor and they just want misery loves company. So they just want somebody to have it worse than they do. And that's my opinion, of course. But I think that if Trump gets reelected, it just shows that we have a lot of work to do. But I'm praying and hoping that he doesn't get reelected and that we flip the Senate, because we in Minnesota need a lot of work done, because we don't have the Senate. We can't do that work. So get out to vote. Let's flip the Senate. Let's vote Trump out. Let's take our country back.
Last word from all of you. What is your message tomorrow? Tomorrow is a big day for those that have not voted, those that have absentee ballots and haven't delivered it in the mail yet. Don't do that. If you're listening,
don't mail it.
And you're gonna hear it. Don't mail it. They're telling you don't mail it. I'm saying it.
Don't mail it. Take it to the early voting center before 2 p.m. tomorrow. Don't mail your ballots.
So hold on, I'll start with you. What happens tomorrow morning? First thing people need to do, those that have absentee ballots and those that have not voted yet, what do you expect they will have to do to get it done?
Tomorrow morning is election day. So I'm hoping that anybody who has not voted can vote at their local precincts. And if you have your ballot, two things you can do. You can either go to your local precinct and just vote. In that way that your vote, is guaranteed counted, or you can take that ballot to the early voting center before 2 p.m. tomorrow. After 2 p.m., it might be too late, but I am begging you guys, I'm pleading with you guys, with everything that's holy, please vote tomorrow. Get out to vote. Vote before you go to work. Take your lunch hour vote. Your employer should let you go and vote. It's the law. Make a plan to vote tomorrow. That's all that matters.
Bihi, Leila, and then Kevin, and then Hassan.
Tomorrow is a big day. Tomorrow is we are in the process of making history. We want everyone to be part of this history. If you already voted, as our representative Hassan said, well, that's good. You're already part of history. If you have not, tomorrow is the day. And tomorrow, you have the power to change the situation in this country. You have the power to slow down climate change. You also have the power to fight against the fossil corporations that pollute this world and everywhere, wherever we come from and where we are here right now. We have the power to change hate and bring people together. Tomorrow is the day that you have a power in your palette. I would love you to go out there, not only out there. It might be a little bit cloudy. It might be a little bit, unusual. Stay in line, be resilient, be nice, be kind. If you bring extra water, give to the next guy or next lady to you. Don't talk about politics in the line. Stay there, make your vote to change Trump from the White House, to change hate into love, to change division into a one community. Tomorrow is your day, And that's the message we'll be going out there, as our representative said, to make sure everyone votes.
Layla.
Oh, my ad on top of that is that if our vote wasn't so powerful, if our voice and our seat at the table wasn't so powerful, they wouldn't be trying to create ways to eliminate our ballots or to create barriers for us to actually vote. And so tomorrow, everyone needs to be very, very intentional with not just getting to the polls if they haven't already voted, but to contact anybody they think hasn't voted. I'm kind of embarrassed because for as active as I am, I realized today that my parents haven't voted. So you just never know who hasn't, who, especially with COVID, who's been afraid to leave their house. And so one thing folks need to do is reach out to everyone in their network and just to see if they voted, and if there are barriers or if people are afraid, maybe talk to them about ways where they can make it to the polls safely. So that's what needs to happen tomorrow. And this is voting is, I heard someone say that voting is the most passive way of being involved in the system. And voting is the most, it's powerful, but if you're just going to make it to the polls, it's just one day, it's one action, it's an action that contributes to big results. And so that's something that we need to all keep in mind. But we have to keep fighting, we have to keep moving forward, and we need to get as many people out to the polls as possible tomorrow.
All right, Kevin, last word.
Absolutely. I have to agree and echo everyone that stated the reasons why we should be voting. It's very important. Elections can be really, really close. We know in Minnesota, we saw with Al Franken and with Governor Dayton, the election can be really, really close, and it will impact people's lives in so many different ways. So make sure to go out and actually vote tomorrow. Make a plan. If decide right now, are you going to go morning, afternoon, evening? You can actually register the same day. Bring a friend. In fact, I feel like that's a challenge right here, right now. Bring a friend, family member, somebody else. Do this practice organizing tomorrow. Tomorrow is your moment to start organizing and getting folks and mobilizing and getting folks to show up, because that's how we build and grow our power together.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Hassan, we lost you for a little bit. I think maybe your phone died, but you're back. So we're finishing. We're just concluding. What do you have? What message do you have for tomorrow? It's election day for you in St. Cloud and many other cities and towns across Minnesota. What is your last message to the voters out there, and those that have not voted, and those that have absentee ballots, and those that are not yet voted but they plan to go tomorrow? Excuse me.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for being here. I just want to tell the people to be vigilant, to come out to vote, to exercise your right, to hope for the best, but to work hard to make sure that every person they know voted, and to bring people to the voting places. Yeah. To be hopeful, inshallah. I just want people to understand that this is very difficult times with pandemic going on, with the country being isolated from many parts of the world because of the rhetoric that has been going on. But people need to have hope and not fear. So to exercise their right, to come out to vote, to make sure that they vote for people who will progress them, who will help them progress their ideas and bring their issues to the table. Thank you so much, and thanks for everyone. What you doing?
I want to thank Representative Hodan Hassan. I want to Bihi, one person is at the front, been fighting for Somali community for a long time. Layla, got it right. I got it right. Layla, and Kevin Chavez, and Hassan, who is running for City of St. Cloud City Council. I want to thank each one of you for coming out today and really getting the message out on why this election is very important to all of us, for everyone, for people of with layers of identity that we have and that we make part of that identity that we call this great state home. And we are US citizens, and our roles are civic duties to get it done. And taking the pleasure in voting out Donald Trump. My wife and my kids went today, but it was great. Each one of you mentioning that and saying that clearly, that you take pleasure in staying in line and voting Donald Trump out. Just that is a resistance itself. Your vote is a big resistance. Thank you, each one of you. Thank you for joining me tonight. We're going to continue having this conversation, whatever outcome we have tomorrow. For mental health, we're going to find Hodan Hassan if it comes to it. Hopefully,
Thank
we
you.
can get a good advice.
I may need a therapist if Donald Trump wins. So don't be looking after me.
Tomorrow
We all will.
Tomorrow night, let's rally around. Just hang around. I might invite all of you to come around to celebrate, or if not, the worst nightmare.
Celebrate.
All right.
Thank you
gonna
very
win.
much.
We are always very
Thank
hopeful.
you, everyone.
I'm hopeful we're gonna win.
We're gonna win.
We are.
We are.
Hopeful.
Yes.
Inshallah, we'll win. Don't worry.
Hopeful. Thank you very
All
much.
right. Good night, everyone.
All right.